Kelly, where do you stand on the great Castlevania II debate?
Somewhere between the shoulder and the neck.
Makes sense. Welcome back to Bog Panda, everybody. I'm Dr. Mike, Edificial Pagan on everything. Joining me, as always,
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And boy, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the Bog Panda YouTube channel, home of Hard No, the world's shortest podcast. In addition to
just
many,
because it
many.
was cold out.
Was that?
Just because it was cold out.
Yep. Always something with you. It's always something. I'm all flutter here. Check out our merchandise. Like, subscribe, leave comments, watch our videos a lot, please. Get our watch time up. We're all about that. But do check out our shorts. We're got Hard No going out, Pun of the Days. Could get back to a more regular publication. And maybe, not run this by Mike, but this is the year of the 10-year anniversary of Snark Alec Radio. And so I think there's a pretty good chance before too long you're going to start seeing some shorts which will pull out special moments in the history of Snark Alec Radio, some interesting moments. So lots of fun stuff. Way to stay on top of that, of course, is to subscribe, turn on that bell for notifications, check it out.
Yeah, and I love that idea because we were talking about doing, some sort of a long form special. And then I think where we kind of landed on it is that we're going to kind of do little things and spread it out throughout the year because that's how you maximize the content, people. And so plus I think it'll be fun and more digestible things for people because there's probably a lot of people who watch this show who never listened to Snark Alec Radio and weren't aware of that. So
I would
that's
say
something,
most.
yeah, something that Kelly and I, that's where we met initially and started working together initially. And that's reaching its 10-year anniversary. So we were co-hosts on a radio show. Initially, I was just behind the scenes on that show and then became a co-host with Kelly, who was the host from day one. So it's going to be interesting to kind of revisit some of that stuff and share some of our memories about it. But tonight, and I already regret not working Kelly's quest into my intro somehow, we are going to talk about a fan-made remake of Simon's Quest, the second game in the Castlevania franchise. Simon's Quest is one. So you guys know I love Castlevania, one of my all-time favorite franchises. Some of my favorite games of all time are held within that franchise. There's really only a couple of games in the entire series of dozens of titles that I don't love because it's really just degrees of how much I love these games. Simon's Quest was one that I remember it was so divisive among people when I was a kid. There were people who just absolutely hated this game. It's funny now because what they hated about it were all the things that became the staples of the Castlevania franchise. So the original Castlevania, which is a classic, and I love it, is a pretty straightforward, very difficult, but pretty straightforward action platformer kind of game. It doesn't have the role-playing elements that the series is known for, like leveling up weapons and experience and things like that, collecting items to build potions and different things. It just doesn't have those deeper mechanics to it. It's pretty straightforward. So Castlevania 2, and I think really what it came down to is Castlevania 2, instead of easing people into those kind of role-playing mechanics and deeper gameplay mechanics, that the series, this is what people love, and is the establishment of what is now people call the Metroidvania style games, where you level up weapons and experience and things like that as part of more of an action game rather than a role-playing game. This is where it starts, is Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2. But I think it was a really hard turn into it, and people were just coming off of Castlevania. We're not looking for that. This game goes deep into that right from the start. There's not a lot of action necessarily in the beginning of the game. You're kind of meandering through a town, talking to townspeople, picking up items, collecting hearts, which in almost all of the rest of the Castlevania franchise are ammo for the different weapons that you pick up and upgrade. In this, you use them as ammo, but also money to buy things from shopkeepers and things like that. The system of interacting with the townspeople isn't great because they hadn't really worked that out yet. So some of the stuff they're telling you is totally useless or doesn't really make sense. And I think some of it is probably translation because it is originally a Japanese game. But even when better later translations of it came out, it wasn't that much better. It doesn't seem like they were that far off of it. So I think it was just that hard left turn into it that just divided a lot of people. It really smoothed out very quickly. By the time you get to Castlevania 3 and 4, when you're moving into the 16-bit era, people more than expected but loved those dynamics of the game. But they just didn't strike that balance with the action and the role-playing game elements in 2. I personally do like it now, but I do think at the time of the original Nintendo trilogy, it was by far my least favorite. So even though I can appreciate it now, it is more nostalgic of looking back on this is where those ideas started than it is the game itself. So there is now a fan remake of it that, of course, updates the graphics and sound effects, but actually kind of eases you more into those gameplay mechanics. So you collect, in addition to the hearts for ammo, you collect money to buy things instead of, doubling up on the hearts for it. It's a little more straightforward in how you go about purchasing items, how you deal with townspeople, things like that. So it kind of smooths out the experience. So as a fan, I am interested in trying it. I would definitely be interested to see somebody. You've never played this game, right?
No, I've fired it up. I haven't really played it thoroughly at all.
Okay, so I would actually be more interested even in seeing like what somebody who has less experience with Castlevania 2 would think of it, because is this a better, like, coming at it pretty fresh with both versions, is this a better experience coming into it?
Yeah, I'll give that a shot and kind of let you know. So what platforms is the new and improved?
I believe it was a PC download. I could be completely wrong. If I'm wrong, the correct answer that I always knew was down there. Okay. If I'm wrong, which I'm sure I'm not.
Yeah, because I'm always on the market for a new Switch game, those kinds of things too. But
it's a fan remake, so that's why I'm assuming it's a PC.
Okay, cool. We'll check it out. Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting that if there have been a couple game series that have made that turn, whether it was they were a side scroller and they kind of shifted what they were doing, some of those things so typically met with kind of mixed reaction on any of those, but the kind of storyline with the need to collect and work across non-player characters and all that, going back to my Amiga days. The Cinemaware series, it came from the desert, was one of probably the biggest ones that really didn't had the action elements of it. For It Came from the Desert, spoiler, large ants are attacking a community. You do have to shoot the ant, which involves using your mouse to put the crosshair on the ant and hit it a certain number of times, but not quite the kind of action you're getting with Castlevania and all that. But I've always kind of enjoyed those games that you've got the kind of the storyline going out, decisions you make matter, and kind of flowing through there. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, I'll give it a try. And then as I talk about it, I'm going to probably need to revisit several Cinemaware titles because they did a nice job many, many years ago in a kind of less capability-rich environment.
Yeah, and it's definitely, like I said, I'm interested to see any listeners as well, especially if you've had limited experience with it. I mean, obviously, I've been playing the Castlevania games since I was a kid, so it's nostalgic going to be fun for me, but I don't know if that ease into it is going to matter to me because I'm already used to the mechanics of Castlevania. So for somebody who's less familiar with it, play the original, then play the original Nintendo version of Castlevania 2, see what a hard left turn that was versus playing this fan-made remake.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thanks for kind of sharing that one. I definitely will check it out and obviously go back to my Super Console X for a greater exposure to many versions of Castlevania.
Yeah, there are quite a few on there.
Bog Panda.